Hola, mi nombre es Carol Hernández y esta capacitación es sobre la importancia de la actividad física para los niños antes de ingresar a la escuela pública. La actividad física regular es esencial para los niños en edad preescolar por muchas razones. El ejercicio, al igual que la alimentación, es una parte fundamental del crecimiento físico de un niño. El ejercicio ayuda a los niños a desarrollar músculos y huesos más fuertes, actuando como un estímulo para que el cuerpo se adapte. El desarrollo de una buena base física desde una edad temprana incluye una masa y densidad ósea saludable, lo que reducirá el riesgo de desarrollar enfermedades relacionadas con los huesos, como la osteoporosis, más adelante en la vida. La fuerza física se construye a través del ejercicio. Ser fuerte tiene muchos beneficios para un niño en crecimiento, como poder caminar distancias más largas sin cansarse y tener la fuerza para realizar sus tareas diarias. El ejercicio también promueve la flexibilidad y la estabilidad. Para los niños más pequeños, la actividad física durante el tiempo de juego ayuda con el desarrollo de las habilidades motoras, la cual es responsable de ayudarlos a dominar los movimientos básicos que necesitan para la vida cotidiana. El desarrollo de las habilidades motoras de un niño significa enseñanzas básicas como alimentarse, atarse los cordones de los zapatos e incluso escribir. Encorvarse es un problema común en muchos niños y el ejercicio ayuda a contrarrestar esta tendencia negativa. Al mejorar la postura de un niño, esto aumenta la fuerza del núcleo y la columna vertebral. Una buena postura es muy útil en la vida. Protege la columna vertebral de un niño de la deformación debido a un encorvamiento excesivo y también reduce las posibilidades de experimentar dolores corporales debido a una mala postura. Nada quema calorías con tanto éxito como la actividad física, lo que hace que el ejercicio sea una actividad esencial cuando se trata de controlar el peso. Sin embargo, la mayoría de los padres sienten la necesidad de mimar a sus hijos dejándolos comer todo lo que quieran. Debe saberse que la obesidad durante la infancia conlleva un riesgo elevado de permanecer obeso en la edad adulta. El ejercicio no se trata solamente de mejorar la potencia, también ayuda con el desarrollo del cerebro. Durante el ejercicio, las células nerviosas del hipocampo y la corteza prefrontal del cerebro se activan para multiplicarse y formar nuevas conexiones. Esto da como resultado una mejor concentración y una mejor memoria, que son rasgos que definitivamente servirán bien a las necesidades académicas de un niño que va a la escuela. La actividad física ayuda a aliviar el estrés y la ansiedad y a sentirse bien. Las hormonas que libera promueven un mejor estado de ánimo. Además de mejorar la salud mental y el estado de ánimo de un niño, el ejercicio también aumenta la autoestima del niño. Ser bueno en un determinado deporte es un aumento de la confianza de los niños. El hecho de que el ejercicio ayude a controlar el peso también ayuda a promover una autoimagen saludable en los niños. El ejercicio no solo brinda a los niños la oportunidad de hacer nuevos amigos, sino que también les ayuda a desarrollar y nutrir sus habilidades sociales. Los deportes de equipo, por ejemplo, ayudan a los niños a perfeccionar habilidades de comunicación cruciales, como aprender a leer señales no verbales, practicar el trabajo en equipo y adoptar roles de liderazgo. Todos los beneficios del ejercicio para el desarrollo tienen un impacto significativo en el desarrollo de un niño a largo plazo. Los beneficios físicos, mentales y emocionales derivados del ejercicio prepararán bien a un niño para su adolescencia y edad adulta. Los niños de todas las edades necesitan actividad física para estar sanos y crecer adecuadamente. Cuanto antes comience una persona un estilo de vida activo y aprenda a disfrutarlo, más posibilidades tendrá de continuar el resto de su vida disfrutando de la actividad física. La actividad física regular ayuda a los niños a mantener un peso saludable al quemar calorías. También promueve el estado físico, la salud del corazón, el desarrollo de huesos y músculos fuertes. El hecho de que los niños sean físicamente activos también puede ayudar a reducir el riesgo de hiperlipidemia, osteoporosis, hipertensión y obesidad. Los niños menores de 7 años deben realizar actividades en superficies planas porque no tienen desarrollado su equilibrio o coordinación mano-ojo. Las actividades en las que deben participar deben ser simplemente con algunas instrucciones como bailar, dar volteretas, Simón dice, seguir el líder, luz roja, luz verde y etiqueta. Durante estos años, los niños desarrollan sus habilidades motoras gruesas que les permiten lanzar, patear, caminar, correr, saltar, galopar y saltar.
Let's move together and play red light, green light. Green light means go, run in place. Yellow light means caution, walk very slowly. Red light means stop, don't move. Are you ready? Let's get moving. Green light. Yellow light. Green light. Yellow light. Red light. Green light. Red light. Yellow light. Green light. Red light. Yellow light. Green light. And red light.
Los niños menores de 7 años deben realizar actividades en superficies planas porque no tienen desarrollado su equilibrio. Los niños de hoy en día tienen estilos de vida más sedentarios que en el pasado. Los niños pasan mucho tiempo en interiores usando dispositivos electrónicos. Los padres están trabajando más que antes y no tienen el tiempo o la energía para ayudar a sus hijos a hacer ejercicio. Los padres y cuidadores pueden no saber cómo promover la actividad física en los niños. Muchos niños viven en vecindarios que no son seguros para jugar al aire libre. Es posible que los niños no tengan espacio dentro de su hogar para participar en actividades físicas. Estas son las directivas de la Asociación Nacional para el Deporte y la Educación Física para actividad física para niños pequeños. Es muy importante que los educadores proporcionen actividades físicas en sus programas cada día. Los educadores deben dirigir actividades físicas estructuradas en el interior o en el exterior. Anime a los niños diciéndoles que están haciendo un excelente trabajo lanzando, pateando, saltando, etc. Los educadores deben recibir capacitaciones sobre las diferentes formas de proporcionar actividad física a los niños en función de sus edades. No permitir que los niños sean sedentarios durante periodos prolongados de tiempo. Asegúrate de que están moviendo su cuerpo durante todo el día. Estas son pautas para el juego al aire libre. Estas son pautas para el espacio exterior. La actividad física estructurada es planificada y dirigida intencionalmente por un adulto. Estructurando la actividad física ayuda a que los músculos de los niños se fortalezcan y les da mejor resistencia, flexibilidad y salud del corazón. También les ayuda a tener un peso saludable. Al planificar actividades estructuradas es necesario tener en cuenta la capacidad de atención, las habilidades motoras, el nivel de desarrollo, la madurez emocional, el espacio y el equipo disponibles de los niños.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan and I'm a physical therapist here at Easter Seals. Today I'm going to review 5 fun gross motor activities to keep your kiddos up and active while cooped up indoors. The best part is that these require no special equipment, just everyday items found around your house. First up is animal walks. There's several types of walks, including bear walks and penguin walks, but today we're going to show you crab walks. Have your kiddo place their hands and feet on the ground with their belly up and then have them push through their arms and legs to lift their bottom off the ground. Then move hands and feet forward, alternating right hand, left foot, and left hand, right foot. These are an awesome way to work on core strengthening, coordination, and motor planning. If your child has trouble with the sequence or positioning of these walks, you can add visual targets for their hands and feet, such as sticky notes, colored tape, or construction paper. Mix it up by including sideways and backwards walks as well. Next up is an obstacle course made out of pillows, blankets, and anything else you might have laying around the house. This activity is a great way to simulate walking on outdoor surfaces like grass and playground wood chips. It also helps to improve balance and leg strength and can also help kids with their motor planning skills. The possibilities are endless with this one. Have your kids set up the obstacles in a variety of directions and patterns and have them jump between obstacles for an extra challenge. Hi-ya! Next up we have ninja kicks. Have your kiddos build a tower out of blocks, boxes, cups, or anything else that will stack, and then lift one foot to kick the tower down. This is a fun way to practice single leg strength, balance, and foot-eye coordination. To make this more challenging, have your child hold their balance for several seconds before kicking the tower over. For even more fun, you can add the ninja sound effects. Hi-ya! Laundry, anyone? Just kidding. Let's put those laundry baskets to good use. Have your little ones fill a laundry basket with their favorite stuffed animals or toys and take them for a ride around the house. Have them push it forward and pull it backwards for leg strengthening and backwards walking practice. Too easy? Fill the basket with heavier things from around the house, such as soup cans or a sack of potatoes, for more of a strengthening challenge. Last but not least is box hurdles. Let's put those empty Amazon boxes to good use. Line them up and have your child step, run, or jump over the boxes for a fun motor activity. Have your child try these sideways or backwards for an added motor planning challenge. And parents, don't be afraid to try these alongside your kiddos. They'll think it's the coolest thing ever, and you might even have a little fun in the process.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Rachel. And I'm Jessica. We're the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants with ARCLA. And today we're going to talk about crossing midline, what it is, why it's important, and some ideas for you to incorporate activities to cross midline. I have a lot to say on this one. I know you do. What the heck is crossing midline? You have an invisible line down the middle of your body, and it basically means to cross that midline, right? We're doing a dance, having a good time, crossing midline. Yep, so you're crossing part of your left side of your body to the right side of your body, vice versa. And when you do this, you're actually connecting both sides of your brain together, because you do also have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere of your brain. And anytime we cross midline with our body, with our eyes, then we are creating new neural pathways in the brain. Crossing midline actually helps to promote bilateral coordination, bilateral integration, and we do have a YouTube video that goes into more detail about bilateral integration that you should definitely watch, definitely check out after you finish this video, and we will link that in the description below. Yep, so bilateral integration is basically just coordinating both sides of the body together, and then crossing midline also helps to promote hand dominance establishment. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about kind of how crossing midline develops in infancy, what it can look like if crossing midline is not established, and then we'll dive into our activities. So in infancy, a baby will generally start to cross midline while they're laying on their back between 2 and 4 months. Yep, and then as they progress through some developmental milestones, they will start reaching across their body to reach for their opposite foot and begin that feet play by about 6 to 7 months. At about 8 months, we'll see them sitting generally and reaching across their body or across that midline in order to pick up toys and grasp certain objects. Yep, and then in toddlerhood, they should begin to spontaneously reach across midline during a variety of activities, whether it's while they're playing with their toys, while they're eating and drinking, and then while they're learning pre-writing strokes and scribbling. Successful crossing midline skills should be fully developed and emerged by about 8 to 9 years old. So that is a long time for these skills to develop and for those skills to get stronger. And I mean, 8 to 9 years, and we're looking at these skills. So we're going to talk about some of these activities that you can do to help promote this crossing midline. And if you're seeing challenges, let's figure out why. Let's also talk about what those challenges might look like as your child is developing through these first 8 or 9 years. What's it going to look like if they're struggling to cross midline? The first thing, they might only use one hand during play. Now, when a child is young, like under the age of 3, we want them to be using both hands. I know my son right now, he's 19 months. He will color with a crayon with his left hand for a minute, and then he'll color with a crayon with his right hand for a minute, and he'll switch. I'm not concerned about that at all, because that is typical for him to figure out what hand feels better, which hand is dominant. So if they're only using one hand and maybe neglecting their opposite hand, that could be a potential factor of some crossing midline deficits, as well as some other things we want to look into. Another sign of challenges with crossing midline is if your toddler does not spontaneously reach across the other side of their body when they're playing. So if there's a toy on the left side of their body and they're not spontaneously reaching across with their right hand, that can be a sign. The other impact that this has is that crossing midline helps to develop core or trunk strength and control and stability. So when we reach across midline, our trunk rotates and activates all of those core and trunk muscles to help develop that strength and stability. Going along with hand dominance, if we don't see a child develop a consistent hand dominance by 5, 6, 7 years old when they are in school and working on writing, that is definitely something that we want to look into. We want them to be holding the writing utensil with one hand, stabilizing the paper or the object with their opposite hand. because we need that brain development to occur, and by having an established hand dominance, that will help. Going along with that, if your child is switching hands during these fine motor activities, so maybe they are starting a cutting activity with their right hand, and they get through that cutting activity a couple of snips, and then they automatically switch to their left and they start cutting with their left hand. Now, like Rachel said, for her son who's under 2 years, it's not a concern at that age. However, once your child reaches elementary school age, kindergarten, first grade, if they are continually switching hands with these fine motor tasks, that can be a sign of crossing midline challenges. Going a little deeper into bilateral integration, tasks like tying shoes or buttoning a shirt or eating and stabilizing with the opposite hand, if those tasks are really challenging, maybe the child hasn't mastered them, a child should be tying their own shoes by about 5 to 6 years old. That's the goal in OT, that's what we like to push for. Then we can identify what's the underlying cause. Are they struggling with that bilateral coordination? Are they struggling with the fine motor skills? Are they struggling with being able to cross midline? Let's identify that, but we definitely want to promote those bilateral coordination tasks during everyday activities. One last sign that your child might struggle with crossing midline is going to be challenges with visual perception and ocular motor skills tasks, specifically reading and writing in elementary school. So, like we mentioned earlier, crossing midline is bringing one side of the body across that invisible midline to the other side. This also includes your eyes. So anytime you are visually tracking like a ball flying through the air, anytime you're reading or writing, your eyes are moving back and forth and crossing midline. And so if your child is struggling with those activities, it could be a sign. All right, this isn't an exhaustive list, so definitely continue your research. We just wanted to give you some basics to identify and to have in your toolkit to look for. But let's talk about some of our favorite activities that you can do to promote crossing midline. If you want to incorporate these with your kids, your clients, your students, these are good for every child, not just if your child might struggle with crossing midline or bilateral coordination. Every child can benefit and should be doing these activities. Number one is infinity loop drawing. So the infinity loop is that figure 8 that's turned sideways. And what we like to do is draw this on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard on the wall, and have your child make sure that they are centered to that infinity loop, so that their nose is like right at the center of that infinity loop, so that when they are tracing and drawing this infinity loop symbol, they are consistently crossing the line with not just their hand, but also with their eyes. And then we also like to promote doing this with both hands, just so that we're getting both sides of the body, both sides of the brain interacting and connecting together.
Love the infinity loops.
Such a good one.
Another activity we like to call windmills. So this is where you are looking up to the sky, reaching your arms up, and then reaching down to your toes and touching your right arm to your left leg, and then going back up to the sky with your arms on your head and your eyes, and then going back down and touching your left arm to your right toe, and vice versa. Continuing that motion, you get a lot of vestibular integration, a lot of visual vestibular work with that one. Make sure that you do some proprioceptive input afterwards to help ground that nervous system if we're having any potential adverse reactions to that movement. Another activity going along with that one are jumping jacks. Believe it or not, jumping jacks really work on using both sides of the body and coordinating those fluid movements. Oftentimes kids will struggle with coordinating those movements. They will only move their arms, they'll only move their legs. They won't be fluid and sequential, so we want to work on those sequential movements, getting them fluid, and using a mirror is really helpful to identify where their body is and to help them recognize that spatial awareness and how to move their body appropriately to successfully do a jumping jack.
Going along with those, so another motor coordination activity for crossing midline is cross crawls. And so this is where you're going to lift one leg up in the air, bending your knee, so bringing your knee up, and then touching that knee with your opposite elbow, going back to your standing position, and then doing it with the other knee and your other elbow. This is a very challenging activity for kiddos who maybe have never done it before, but also if your child really struggles with crossing midline and bilateral coordination, it'll be challenging, so it's a good one to practice. A fun play-based activity is to use painter's tape on the floor and make roads and drive cars or ride horses or whatever your child is interested in to maneuver through those different roads and pathways with painter's tape. And you can get really creative with your painter's tape creations. You can add loop-de-loops, you can add zigzags, you can add squares, circles, infinity loops even, and using those full body movements while driving those cars, crawling on the ground, really helpful to promote that crossing midline.
It's a great one for toddlers.
So I just did it over the weekend with mine.
The next one is really great for young children. You can do this with your infant, with your toddler, and then of course with your younger children, but is to have them laying on their back and to practice reaching across to grab their foot with their opposite hand. A fun way to promote this for toddlers or young children would be to put stickers on their feet and have them reach with their opposite hand to grab a sticker off of their foot and maybe put it on a piece of paper, then use their other hand to reach to their other foot and grab the sticker, and that can be a fine motor activity too.
So for younger kiddos, they can be laying on their back while they're doing that activity, but for older kiddos, you could have them sitting on a chair or a therapy ball or some unstable surface that they have to balance and hold their body upright and work on that postural control. Reach down and grab that, or bring their toe up and reach and meet in the middle, cross that midline to grab their sticker off of their toe and then put it maybe behind them, so they have to rotate their trunk as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can modify it. Just takes a little out of the box thinking, a little creativity.
The last one that we're going to talk about is very functional and great for school-age children to start learning some life skills, would be to clean windows, clean tables, do these chores that require big arm movements to like wipe things down. And this is great to do with both hands. So have your child use the rag or the paper towel to wash that window or the car with big arm movements, and then switch and make sure you do it with the other hand, or use both hands at the same time.
Okay, there are tons of activities for you to try, incorporate them. If you give them a shot, tag us on Instagram at Welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are thrilled to have you today for our exciting topic. But first, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jessica, and we are the Occupational Therapy Assistants with HARPA.
I have a lot to say on the topic.
I know you do. So today we are going to talk about bilateral integration, and we're going to give you some of our favorite activities to help improve bilateral integration.
Don't close out of this video yet. I know it sounds a little technical and you're like, why do I care about bilateral integration? Well, we're going to tell you, and we're going to tell you why it's important to include these activities into your child's daily routine. And maybe you'll learn something about your child's bilateral integration and coordination, and you can learn some new things and try them out.
But first, what is bilateral integration?
So bilateral integration is the ability to coordinate both sides of the body, top and bottom, to complete a task. And really it can be something as simple as opening a can of green beans, right? You have to stabilize the can and you have to rotate the can opener, okay, right?
I mean, that's not how my can opener works.
Oh, well, I have a manual can opener and I was doing it last night and I was thinking, oh, this is really working on my bilateral integration.
Yep. Sensory goggles are
Isn't
always
that normal
on.
what you think about when you're opening a can of green beans?
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, that is bilateral coordination, bilateral integration. We'll use those terms kind of interchangeably throughout this video, but just know that it is coordinating both sides of the body to do fluid, seamless movements.
And then when we're talking about kids, we really look at bilateral integration from a play standpoint, right? Because that's what children do, they play. So they're using bilateral integration when they ride their bike, when they are playing catch with a ball, when they are even when they're eating, they're using their bilateral integration, when they're writing. All of the child's daily activities that require use of both sides of their body is that bilateral integration. And for this video specifically, we are going to talk more about the arms, the bilateral integration of the upper body, not the lower body.
Yep. So going along with that, well, why is it important? Well, like Jessica said, a child's occupation is play. They are learning through play, and that is what they should be doing every day. And if they struggle with bilateral integration, they could struggle with things like hand dominance. So having that dominant hand in order to write with the same hand every time, or throw a ball with the same hand every time.
Yep, and then just all of those different play activities that that helps them engage with their peers and their environment, climbing, running, jumping, all of those different activities require that good bilateral integration.
Even getting dressed in the morning requires bilateral integration. Never think about it, but buttoning your shirt, zipping your zipper on your pants, tying your shoes, putting your socks on. If you think about it, try doing those activities with just one hand flopping down to the side and you're not paying any attention to it. You can't. I mean, you probably could and just you need some modifications, but we want to work on the underlying skills rather than provide these modifications for kiddos who can incorporate both sides of their body.
Really quick, let's talk about kind of the progression of bilateral integration development, just to kind of get a better understanding of what it looks like.
So starting in infancy, bringing the hands to midline, bringing the hands to mouth, banging pots and pans together, banging lids together, bringing hands to midline is the first step of really engaging the bilateral, engaging both hands, engaging that skill of the bilateral coordination.
Yeah, so that's that symmetrical bilateral integration, right? The hands, the arms are doing the exact same thing for the activity, whereas as the child gets a little bit older, they start to learn asymmetrical bilateral integration, where one hand, one arm does something different than the other to complete the task. And then this is also where that hand dominance starts to develop, because one arm, one hand is going to be stronger, more coordinated, while the other hand, the other arm is going to be the stabilizer.
So one thing that is important to be aware of, this is a little off topic, a little bit more detail oriented, but we can look at overflow associated movements, and this is a big one with bilateral integration activities. And so like Jessica mentioned, that symmetrical bilateral coordination of maybe a task like painting. I'm thinking of painting because this is what we were doing with my kiddo today. He was holding the paintbrush in one hand and his other hand was imitating exactly what that hand that was painting was doing. And that's normal for a kiddo his age. He's a year and a half right now. But we want those skills to increase, and we want that symmetrical bilateral integration to really integrate or move into a more, higher level ability of coordination. And so you should be able to disassociate one hand from the other, both sides of the body. So if we're going back to our painting activity, eventually he'll be able to stabilize the paper with one hand and paint with the other hand, and those hand motions aren't going to be mimicking each other.
That's a good example.
Thank you.
And then really quick, before we talk about our favorite bilateral integration activities, we just want to remind you, or inform you if you didn't know, that not only do you have a dominant hand, but you also are going to establish a dominant leg, right? So if you think about like soccer or even just kickball on the playground, your child is hopefully going to develop a dominant leg that they will consistently kick with. They're also going to develop a dominant eye and a dominant ear as well. And these are things that are very hidden and we don't talk about a lot, and maybe we need to talk about them a little bit more, because it can affect learning, reading, writing, all of those different things. So along with bilateral integration and establishing a hand dominance, there's a lot that goes into it.
I'm just thinking about when we were watching our videos back, and I'm like, why is my head tilted a certain way? And Jessica was like, it's probably your dominant eye and ear. You're just trying to tune in and listen to the information and pay attention as best you can. See if you notice that in yourself or in your kiddos, if they're always tilting a certain way, or if they're using a certain eye. I don't know. I just thought I never had thought about that when I was watching back videos that we recorded. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
You gotta put your sensory goggles on.
So this is why you're all here. The activities, the fun part, the goods, right? First activity that we're going to have you try, using clapping patterns, clapping activities, using a metronome, really just working on bringing those hands to midline. This is great for kiddos who are younger, who are just working on developing those skills. I mean, the hand clapping, we should be having, a consistent clap. In infancy, around a year old is what we want to see. And so going back, working on that skill, and then making it more challenging for kids as they get a little bit older.
Yeah, I was even just thinking doing clap, pat on your legs, right? So you clap and then you pat, and then you can also, and so that really focuses on that like symmetrical, right? Both hands are doing the same action, but then you can kind of progress and do the asymmetrical where maybe you clap and then one hand comes to your shoulder and then you clap and the other hand goes to your shoulder, right? So kind of separating those arm movements during the clapping patterns as well. Number 2 is going to be balloon volleyball. And we as therapists really love balloons for a variety of reasons. We use them for so many things, but when we're talking about bilateral integration, it's great practice for coordinating the upper body to hit the balloon back and forth. You can also increase the challenge if your child is a little bit older and call out left or right, and they have to hit the balloon with whichever arm you call out. It's a great way to practice that left versus right discrimination. And maybe you have them hold like a stick and with both hands, and they have to coordinate their arms together to use the stick to hit the balloon. Like, you can get pretty creative.
We love putting stickers on the balloons, and they have to hit a certain sticker, or maybe you draw letters or numbers and they have to find it before they can hit it while they're visually tracking it, and alternating which hand they're hitting it with. We've also put like beads or cereal pieces inside the balloons, and then we blow the balloons up so it makes a cool noise every time you hit it, so it just changes the sensory experience overall. Number 3, animal walks. We love animal walks for a variety of reasons. If you've been hanging out with us for a while, then you probably know that, and you're like, come on guys, talk about something different.
Never.
No. Animal walks are great because, number 1, there are hundreds of animals that you can imitate and come up with these fun walks to do. But also you can challenge the child by having them complete different sequences and motor movements while they're doing the animal walk. So let's say we're doing just a classic bear walk, right? You're crawling on your hands and your feet like Mowgli, and you're going hand, hand, foot, foot, hand, hand, foot, foot. 9 times out of 10, no matter who the child is doing this activity, they're going to try to go hand, foot, hand, foot, hand, foot, which is that asymmetrical bilateral coordination, right? Which is great, but try to break it up and just do upper body and then lower body, upper body and lower body. Turn the metronome on to make it even more challenging. Hand, hand, foot, foot, hand, foot, foot. Whew! Makes me stressed out just talking about it.
It's such a good one. So good. Okay, our next activity for bilateral integration is going to be the infinity loop or an infinity walk. So there's a variety of ways you can do this one, starting with just having an infinity symbol on the wall. So maybe you draw it on a piece of paper, or if you have a whiteboard, you can draw a really big one on the whiteboard, and have your child use either their finger or a writing utensil to trace that infinity loop. Do it a couple of times through, and then have them switch hands and do it with their other hand as well.
Another fun way to use an infinity loop is by placing 2 items on the floor, a couple feet apart from each other, and you can walk in that figure 8 or that infinity loop pattern around those objects. And if you want to incorporate the eyes a little bit more, you can put a chart up on the wall that they are reading every time they're walking through that figure 8. And so they have to turn their head a certain way each time, they have to rotate their body, and then make sure you switch directions and go the other way.
And if you really want to get crazy and increase the challenge, you can give your child a ball, and maybe they have to bounce and catch the ball as they walk through the infinity loop.
And track the visual
eyes. My gosh, see, that stresses me out.
Woo! Okay, good luck. All right, the next one is just doing basic exercise. So things like jumping jacks and windmills are great ways to work on that bilateral coordination. Things like cross crawls are helpful, and you can modify those significantly for the kiddos. Put a mirror in front of the child if they're struggling to cross midline and use both sides of their body as well. Be really helpful.
Also, try playing catch with some different sized balls. Do some throwing, some catching, some rolling. Maybe try hitting the ball with a baseball bat. Even if your kiddo isn't into baseball or sports, that's okay. You can still turn these into really fun, simple games to increase that bilateral integration.
Yeah, going back to the balloon idea, you can hit the balloon with a baseball bat, and it's way more fun that way. And it gives them a little bit more time to process the speed of the ball coming towards them because it's a balloon.
Definitely. Hopefully, these ideas, these activities were helpful. Hopefully you try some of them. We challenge you to try maybe a new one every day, and maybe you find one that's really, really challenging. So you do that same one every day and you watch your child progress.
Take videos so you can remember how they started versus how they are progressing as you practice every day.
And let them watch those videos so they can see how they're doing. They can watch themselves get better. Really will help build that self-confidence.
If you try these activities and you're loving it, you're having a great time, tag us on Instagram and share your video.
La actividad física no estructurada está dirigido por niños y también se llama juego libre. Respeta y fomenta lo que a los niños les gusta y pueden hacer. Incluye la participación o el estímulo de los adultos si es necesario para ayudar a los niños a mantenerse físicamente activos. La actividad física moderada son actividades que los niños pueden hacer fácilmente, como caminar y bailar. Pueden hablar mientras participan, pero no pueden cantar. La actividad física vigorosa es una actividad que cansa rápidamente a los niños, como correr y saltar cuerda. Hace que el corazón y la frecuencia respiratoria de los niños aumenten mucho. Los educadores deben trabajar con los padres de los niños con discapacidades para ver qué actividades son las mejores para sus hijos. Es posible que las actividades que los educadores ofrecen en sus guarderías deban ser modificadas en función de cómo se ve, mueve, oye y habla el niño. Todos los niños en un programa necesitan participar en actividades físicas diariamente. Estas son las fuentes que utilicé para crear esta información. Con el fin de recibir crédito por este entrenamiento de 2 horas, necesitarás completar el cuestionario que le envié con este enlace. Una vez que haya recibido y calificado su cuestionario, le enviaré su certificado por correo. Gracias por tomar este entrenamiento y espero que tengas un gran resto de tu día.